Chosen one. Heaven has interrupted your battle. The air around you is shifting. The weight pressing on your spirit has caught the attention of God Himself. You've pushed, endured, and given everything you had. Yet the breakthrough has not come the way you expected. Heaven leans close and declares, "You've done enough now. Let me take over." For too long, you've believed that the outcome depended on your strength. You've held the line when no one saw, fought through invisible storms, and prayed when the silence echoed louder than words. But this moment marks a divine handover. The Lord says, "You are no longer required to strive. You are invited to rest." Every sleepless night, every battle fought in secret, every tear that watered the soil of your faith, heaven saw it all. None of it was wasted. You were never unnoticed. The King of Glory has stepped into your story, not as a distant observer, but as the one who now commands, "Be still." You see, surrender is not giving up. It's giving back, returning control to the one who wrote your destiny before the foundations of the world. You have carried things meant for God's shoulders. Now He is reclaiming what was always His to bear. The Word of God declares in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Do you feel the weight of that? Heaven is not asking you to move. Heaven is asking you to rest. The warfare that exhausted you is being transferred into divine hands. You've fought long enough in your own power. Now the armies of heaven march on your behalf. This is what divine interruption feels like. Everything slows. Not because you are losing, but because God is about to demonstrate His strength through your stillness. The very silence you feared has become sacred ground, where miracles germinate unseen. There comes a time when faith no longer looks like effort, it looks like trust. You've prayed, fasted, served, and stood your ground. And now God is saying, "Step aside and watch what I will do." This is the moment when heaven takes over the stage of your life. You've mistaken exhaustion for failure, but heaven calls it proof. Proof that you have given your all. Proof that you are ready for the next phase, the phase where grace does what human effort cannot. When God fights, no strategy can fail, no weapon can stand, no delay can last. Look at your life through heaven's eyes. Every closed door was not rejection, it was protection. Every detour was not punishment, it was preparation. The season you thought was silence was actually set up. You were being positioned for a takeover divine. Unstoppable, irreversible, chosen one. Hear this clearly. You are not stepping back in defeat. You are stepping aside for destiny. The same God who split the sea for Moses, who calmed the storm for the disciples, now commands peace over your chaos. He has not forgotten your name, your prayers, or your promise. This is your cue to breathe. You don't have to earn what grace is ready to give. You don't have to fight for what heaven has already secured. The pressure is lifting because the presence is taking over, and when heaven takes over, movement returns. Doors open effortlessly. The right people find you. Provision appears in places you never looked. It is no longer about your striving, it's about His sovereignty. The shift from effort to flow begins now. Let these words settle deep into your soul. You've done enough. The Father is not disappointed. He is delighted. Your surrender is His invitation. You may not see it yet, but something divine is already in motion. Now is the moment to declare that you trust Him. Type 777 inches, the comments not as a superstition, but as a prophetic act. Let heaven see that you choose release over resistance, trust over tension, rest over wrestling. And if this word stirs something within you, take a second to like, share, and subscribe, not out of routine, but so this message reaches another chosen one who's still carrying what heaven wants to lift. The war you fought was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to lead you here to this stillness, this surrender, this sacred pause where heaven whispers, "You've done enough now, let me take over." And as you stand in that silence, something holy begins to unfold. The peace that surpasses understanding wraps around you like armor. This is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of divine orchestration, where heaven fights, and victory becomes effortless. You finally face the truth. Chosen one, there are weights you were never designed to carry. For so long, you believed endurance was the same as obedience. You thought pushing harder proved your faith. Yet heaven now reveals that some battles were never yours to begin with. You fought out of love, loyalty, and conviction. But even love can become heavy when it tries to play God. There are seasons when heaven watches you wrestle, not because God is silent, but because He's waiting for you to release what doesn't belong in your hands. You were never meant to carry every responsibility, every broken piece, every wounded soul. You have compassion, yes, but you are not the Christ. Every burden that overwhelms you is evidence of something sacred. You've reached the limit of human strength, and that is exactly where divine strength begins. The moment you whisper, "I can't anymore," heaven answers, "Good, now let me." God never asked you to be perfect, He asked you to be present. He never demanded you fix everything only to be faithful with what He gave you. Yet somewhere along the road, you began to believe that surrender meant weakness, and letting go meant loss. But heaven is teaching you a higher truth. Surrender is spiritual maturity. You've been trying to manage outcomes, plan deliverance, and carry others while secretly breaking under the load. But now the Lord reminds you, your assignment was to plant, not to perform the harvest. You sowed in tears, and heaven took note. You did your part. Now it's time for God to do His. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 55, verse 22. Cast your burden upon the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. There is a quiet authority in those words. God is not asking you to endure endlessly. He's commanding you to release. What you let go of does not fall. It rises into His hands. The moment you release the weight, heaven releases the miracle. It's not your job to hold everything together. That was never your role. The Creator who holds galaxies in balance can certainly hold your life. The same power that suspends the stars without strings is the same power holding your destiny in perfect alignment. You've been living under the illusion that everything depends on your next move, but in reality, heaven is already 10 steps ahead. What you call delay, heaven calls design. What you see as falling apart is often God rearranging things for divine order. Your exhaustion is not failure. It's a signal. It's heaven's alarm telling you that it's time to stop carrying what's too heavy. You weren't built to be everyone's savior. You were built to reflect the Savior's love, not to replace Him. Think of the times when you felt the crushing pressure of responsibility to heal, to lead, to be strong when you were breaking inside. God was there, watching you with tender strength, waiting for the moment you would stop striving and whisper, "Take it, Lord." And for when you release, He restores. When you rest, He reigns. You've reached the holy threshold between effort and grace. It's not that God is asking less of you, He's inviting more of Himself into your life. He's not diminishing your purpose, He's deepening it. You are stepping into a season where your greatest power will not come from what you do, but from what you trust. When you finally lay down the burden, you will discover something beautiful. The weight that crushed you was also shaping you. It was pressing out pride, forcing dependence, creating room for the glory of God to dwell. There is freedom in realizing that you don't have to be the answer to every question, the healer of every heart, or the one who carries everyone else's world. You simply have to stay connected to the one who carries all. In this sacred awareness, peace begins to rise like sunlight through morning mist. The storms inside you grow quiet, not because the world around you has changed yet, but because you've changed your position from control to surrender, from fear to faith. Heaven's whisper is gentle but absolute. You've done enough. Now let me hold it. Those words echo through every tired place in your soul, every corner of your mind that once screamed for resolution. And slowly, strength begins to return, not the kind that comes from striving, but the kind that comes from being still in divine hands. This is not an ending, it's a holy exchange. Every burden you release becomes a seed in heaven's soil. Every tear becomes water for the next miracle. And one day, when you look back, you'll see it clearly. You never lost control. You simply gave it back to the one who never lost you. You've reached the edge, chosen that sacred tension where obedience feels like failure. You've done everything you knew how to do. You followed every instruction, stood through every storm. And yet the results look nothing like the promise you were shown. You wonder, did I miss something? But heaven whispers, no, you're right where you're supposed to be. And it's strange, isn't it? How the path of obedience sometimes leads straight into silence. You expect reward, but instead, you face resistance. You expect celebration, but encounter confusion. That's because obedience isn't always followed by applause. Sometimes it's followed by pruning. God doesn't measure faith by visible fruit, but by hidden roots. You did not fail, you obeyed. And heaven calls that success. Every act of obedience is a declaration that says, I trust you, even when I don't understand. There are moments when that trust feels like walking blindfolded through fire. But that's where the purest form of faith is born, when you choose to walk. Not because it makes sense, but because it's Him who called. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 17, verse 7. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in Him. No, that is the kind of trust heaven honors. Not the trust that demands proof, but the trust that stands still in uncertainty. You may not see what's being built, but heaven sees the entire blueprint. The delay is not denial, it's divine construction behind closed doors. You thought surrender meant losing control, but it actually means entering alignment. When you let go, heaven takes over the steering wheel. Your hands may be off it, but your journey is not directionless. You're being guided by the unseen currents of grace, moved by a rhythm not of this world. Do not despise the seasons where your obedience seems to produce nothing. Even when nothing moves in the visible, everything shifts in the spiritual. God is never idle. Heaven does its best work in silence, shaping outcomes that the world will soon witness with awe. You see, when obedience feels like failure, it's usually a sign you're crossing into divine territory. You're leaving behind the realm of human logic and entering the realm of supernatural results. God's greatest works are often wrapped in moments that make no sense to the flesh. You've sown seeds of faith into dry soil, but dry seasons are deceptive. They hide the roots. The roots are still growing, still reaching deeper. You don't see progress yet because heaven is fortifying the unseen before revealing the seen. Maybe you've asked, why me? But the truth is, God trusts you with silence because He knows you'll stay even when it hurts. That's the mark of the chosen: endurance without evidence, faith without visible fruit, obedience without validation. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. The silence is not rejection, it's a sign that heaven is working in dimensions you cannot yet perceive. You're not forgotten, you're being refined. Think of the moments when you've obeyed despite exhaustion, when you've spoken truth despite rejection, when you've loved even after betrayal. Those moments were heaven's measuring rod. Each one whispered, "This one is ready for glory." Oh, the waiting season doesn't mean you're behind. It means heaven is synchronizing your destiny. You don't see it yet, but the gears are turning. The promise has not been cancelled, it's being crafted. And in this very stillness, the Father is preparing to do what you cannot. When obedience feels like failure, heaven calls it faith's graduation day. You are being entrusted with deeper mysteries, with authority that can only come from trust that's been tested. So, don't retreat. Don't doubt your calling. The pressure you feel is not the end, it's the prelude to manifestation. When you come to the end of your ability, that's when God begins to reveal His. Now pause. Let this truth settle in your heart. Type, "I still trust," in the comments. Not for me, but as a prophetic declaration that even when everything around you looks unfinished, you will not quit. When you write those words, you're telling both heaven and hell that your obedience is not for sale, that your trust remains, even in the dark. Because one day soon, the very places where you felt abandoned will become the places where His glory appears. And when it does, you'll understand why you had to walk this road of quiet faith. The silence wasn't punishment. It was preparation for power. And when you type those words, it's not just a comment, it's covenant language. Heaven reads it as agreement, as your spirit signing its name on divine trust. That simple act becomes worship, a declaration that your faith stands taller than your fear. There are moments when heaven seems silent, when time stretches long and prayers echo into still air. You wonder if God heard you, if He saw the tears, if your devotion was worth it. But silence, in the language of heaven, is not absence. It is timing. Divine timing often moves like thunder, distant at first, yet certain to arrive. You have been living in the waiting room of heaven, pacing between hope and exhaustion. Days have turned into weeks, and still, no visible sign of change. Yet something profound is unfolding behind the veil. God is not ignoring you. He is aligning everything around you. When His timing activates, it will not just meet your need, it will rewrite your story. Heaven's timing is never rushed because it builds permanence. Quick answers satisfy emotion. but divine timing builds foundation. What takes time to form will stand the test of it. And you, chosen one, are being prepared for something that must last. The waiting has not been wasted. It has been sacred construction. The prophet Habakkuk wrote of this mystery when he recorded the vision of delay. Heaven's wisdom through his pen said, "The revelation awaits an appointed time, though it lingers. Wait for it will certainly come and will not delay." No, those words carry power even now. What feels like lingering is actually perfect orchestration. The rhythm of heaven never skips a beat. You are not forgotten. You are simply on heaven's clock, and that clock does not fail. Sometimes God hides his movement so that your faith learns to breathe without sight. You may feel suspended in nothingness, but it is there in that invisible gap where trust becomes mature. Heaven knows that if you can believe when nothing happens, you will be unshakable when everything does. You've seen doors close that made no sense. Opportunities vanish right when you were ready. But if those doors had opened too soon, they would have become cages instead of callings. God delays not to deny, but to protect. The things he is preparing for you require your readiness as much as his release. This is why divine timing often feels slow. It's not because God is late, but because he's tailoring perfection. Every thread of your story is being woven with precision. When it all aligns, you'll see why the wait was mercy in disguise. The temptation to force what's not ready is the greatest trap of the impatient heart. But you've grown past that. The spirit within you has matured through the pain of patience. You've learned that rushing ruins what resting refines. Heaven's silence is not a punishment. It's a pause filled with purpose. It's the stillness before the sudden, that mysterious space where God prepares the miraculous. He never wastes waiting. Every prayer you whispered became a blueprint for future manifestation. The truth is, when God finally moves, it happens so swiftly that you forget how long you waited. What took years to build in faith can manifest in a moment. Suddenly, what once made no sense becomes perfectly clear. The delay turns into testimony. The silence becomes the soundtrack of victory. Do not resent the waiting, for it is the womb of destiny. Every promise must gestate before it's born. A miracle that comes before its time would collapse under its own weight. But yours will not. Yours will stand, because it was forged in patience and refined by divine timing. And when the appointed moment arrives, you will see it, the shift, the acceleration, the fulfillment. Heaven's clock will strike, and everything you prayed for, cried for, and nearly gave up on will come rushing into place. Then you will understand the delay was never denial. It was divine design, preparing your life for glory. The first sound of divine timing is subtle, like the wind changing direction after a long stillness. You won't hear trumpets, but your spirit will know. Circumstances begin to align effortlessly, and what once resisted suddenly yields. That's how you'll know heaven's hand has turned the page. Then, acceleration begins. Delayed answers appear without effort. People who once overlooked you start to remember your name. The impossible shifts, as if destiny itself exhaled. You realize it was never about your pace. It was always about God's precision. His timing redeems everything time once seemed to steal. Finally, gratitude replaces frustration. You see how every waiting season prepared your heart to sustain what's now arriving. The blessing that once felt late now feels perfect. Heaven smiles because you finally understand. Divine timing is not slow, it's sovereign. Everything came exactly when your spirit was ready to receive it. You've walked through long nights, through the silence of unanswered prayers, through the ache of wondering if God still saw you. But heaven never turned away. It only waited for the right moment to reveal what had been growing in the dark. Now that moment begins to dawn. The hidden season you thought would break you was actually building you. What you called wilderness, heaven called workshop. While you wept, God was weaving. While you felt alone, He was writing new instructions in the unseen. Nothing you endured was wasted. Every trial was a chisel, shaping you into a vessel heaven could trust. You are not emerging from a grave, you are emerging from a cocoon. The silence that covered you was not burial, but transformation. Heaven hid you, not to punish you, but to protect the purity of what was still forming. When gold is refined, it's not displayed in the fire, it's revealed after it. The prophet Isaiah wrote of this process when he declared, "I will give you the treasures of darkness, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord." Those treasures are not always material. Sometimes they are resilience, wisdom, discernment, the kind of spiritual wealth that cannot be stolen. You now carry what can only be learned in hiddenness, the calm that follows storms, the clarity that comes from silence, the confidence that cannot be shaken. What you felt as delay was heaven's deep training. Every disappointment, every closed door, every unanswered prayer has now become oil for your lamp. You carry light because you chose to trust when there was nothing to see. And now heaven says, it's time to rise. And as you rise, remember, not everyone will understand where you've been or what it cost. That's all right. Hidden seasons are personal. They are sacred conversations between your spirit and God. You don't need to explain your glow. It's the reflection of fire you survived. And if this message finds you today, it may be heaven's way of confirming that your hidden work is almost finished. You are stepping into the unveiling, the season when what was private becomes public, when what was buried blooms. This space, this community, exists for that unveiling, to remind the chosen ones that they are not walking alone, that the waiting, the breaking, and the becoming all have meaning. Every story shared here is part of a larger symphony, the sound of heaven calling its warriors back to hope. If these words reach you, if they strengthen your faith, then you are already part of that divine movement. And if you ever feel led to help keep this message flowing, to keep this voice reaching those who still sit in silence, you can do so from the same place. You pray quietly, willingly, without pressure. Think of it this way: every act of support is like placing another stone in a riverbed. Together, we build the stream that carries light forward. When you share, the current widens. When you subscribe, you become part of the steady flow that keeps truth moving. When you like, it's as if you're lifting a lantern higher so more eyes can find it. And when you ever choose to donate, do it as planting a seed in hidden soil. It's not payment, it's participation. It's saying, let the light travel farther than I can reach. Every gift, no matter how small, becomes part of the flame that refuses to go out. No one is asked, all are invited. Whether you share, subscribe, or simply listen with an open heart, it matters. It all matters. Every action of support becomes a ripple in the kingdom's ocean, carrying light into places words alone cannot reach. So if your heart ever whispers, "I want to help," follow that nudge, whether through prayer, sharing this message, or giving in whatever way you feel. Do it freely. It's never about the amount, it's about the alignment. It's about joining what heaven is already doing. And even if you have nothing to give right now but your presence, that too is holy, because you're listening. Your agreement, your amen, carries spiritual weight. Together, we form a circle of light. Every listener, a candle. Every giver, a flame. Every sharer, a wind that carries the fire farther. So, if this message touched you, like it, share it, subscribe, or sow a seed only if your spirit feels led. Every act, no matter how simple, becomes part of heaven's ongoing echo. Your hidden season is almost over. The same God who saw you in the shadows is now preparing to reveal you in the light. Keep your heart open. What's ahead will be worth every quiet night, every secret tear, every moment you refused to quit. Heaven begins to move when surrender becomes complete. You've given everything that could be given: your energy, your plans, your control. And now, heaven steps into the gap with holy authority. This is the sacred exchange. Your effort for his power, your worry for his wisdom, your limits for his limitless. The moment you truly let go, you activate the divine order of replacement. Heaven never leaves an empty space unfilled. When you release what drained you, God fills it with what sustains you. The weight you lay down becomes the room where miracles rest. You have been standing at a threshold, unsure of how to take the next step. The truth is, it was never about finding more strength, it was about making more space. The less you cling, the more heaven can carry. Your release is not the end of action, it's the beginning of divine acceleration. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." And that single truth reshapes everything. Heaven doesn't wait for you to become strong enough. It reveals its strength when you are finally honest about your weakness. This is the paradox of divine exchange. The very place you thought disqualified you becomes the exact place where glory begins. You are not broken beyond repair. You are broken open for revelation. The cracks in your life are not flaws, they are entry points for divine light. When you stop hiding your wounds, you allow heaven to heal them in public power. There is a moment in every calling when striving ceases and surrender takes over. It feels like falling, but it's actually being caught. You don't crash into failure, you land in grace. Heaven doesn't demand performance, it desires permission. When you give God permission to take over, you align yourself with divine rhythm. Think of it like an orchestra. You've been trying to play every instrument, control every note, conduct the whole song. But now the conductor himself steps in. The music doesn't stop, it transforms. Your role shifts from performer to participant, from trying to lead the sound to allowing it to flow through you. And in that flow, you begin to see what human effort could never produce: open doors that require no explanation, peace that doesn't depend on understanding, strength that returns without striving. Heaven's hand moves quietly, but powerfully, rearranging your steps so that every path begins to lead toward promise. You'll notice something subtle. The situations that once exhausted you no longer have the same power. The anxiety that used to wake you at night starts to lose its grip. You're still facing challenges, but you're no longer facing them alone. That's the beauty of the exchange. It doesn't always change the circumstances, but it always changes you. Heaven doesn't rush its replacements. It refines them. Every surrendered moment is like an offering laid upon a holy altar. God consumes your fear, your doubt, your weariness. And from the ashes rises new fire, the kind that cannot be quenched by disappointment. This is where heaven's math confuses human logic. What you give up multiplies. What you release expands. The things you once tried to hold on to become more fruitful in God's hands than they ever could in yours. You are not losing control. You're handing it to the only one who knows how to use it. Do you feel that shift even now? It's subtle but undeniable. The burdens that once felt welded to your chest begin to lift. That's not imagination. That's divine replacement in motion. You are entering a new spiritual ecosystem where everything surrendered becomes sacred currency. Heaven whispers again, "You've done enough. Now let me take over completely." These are not words of dismissal. They are words of invitation. Heaven wants to show you what happens when divine power replaces human striving, when miracles are no longer exceptions, but normal outcomes of trust. If this message stirs something deep within you, type 888 inches, the comments, a number of new beginnings and divine overflow. It's not a code, not superstition, but a prophetic symbol. Your declaration that you're ready for the exchange. When you type it, you're not sending a signal to me, you're opening a door to heaven. It says, "I release, and I receive." Then, the divine exchange is happening right now, not next week, not one day, but in this very breath. Heaven is replacing your effort with ease, your exhaustion with energy, your confusion with clarity. Every release becomes resurrection. Let the exchange be complete. Let heaven take over. The music will not stop. It will become beautiful beyond recognition. The storm came suddenly. It always does. You never really see it approaching until the sky above you shifts and the air grows heavy with what heaven allowed. The storm that tested your surrender was not meant to destroy you. It was designed to reveal what was already unshakable within you. When everything you built began to tremble, heaven was not punishing you. It was proving you. Storms expose foundations. They don't create them. What looked like chaos was actually confirmation that your faith had roots. The pressure didn't come to crush you. It came to show you that you were already stronger than the winds that threatened your peace. You see, the surrendered heart is not spared from storms, but it is sustained through them. The same wind that bends weaker branches refines deeper roots. The storm you faced wasn't about loss. It was about strengthening your connection to heaven's unmovable ground. The voice of God thundered in the book of Job, chapter 37, verse 5. God's voice thunders in marvelous ways. He does great things beyond our understanding. Those words capture the mystery of what you've endured. There were moments when you couldn't make sense of it, when pain felt louder than purpose. Yet even then, heaven was speaking through the thunder, shaping endurance into your soul. You might not realize it yet, but storms are heaven's classrooms. They teach lessons peace never could. You learned how to pray without needing answers, how to stand without visible support, how to trust without explanation. You discovered that faith doesn't need comfort to survive. It needs conviction. Every lightning strike illuminated something you needed to see: a fear to release, a person to forgive, a part of your identity to reclaim. You saw what truly matters, not when everything was calm, but when everything shook. Storms don't just change the weather, they change the worshipper. You may still remember those sleepless nights, those silent cries that reached beyond words. Yet heaven heard every sound your heart made. The winds that howled around you were not random, they were repositioning you. The storm was not a detour from your destiny, it was the wind that carried you into it. There's something about being stripped of control that makes you see clearly. When the noise of life falls silent beneath thunder, the soul starts to listen. And what you heard in that chaos wasn't fear, it was calling. You began to realize that not every shaking is an ending. Some are holy beginnings disguised as disruption. When the waves rose higher, you discovered that peace isn't the absence of storms, it's the presence of God in the middle of them. He was there all along, not standing outside the tempest, but walking on its waters. Every gust that frightened you became the rhythm that carried you closer to Him. You've walked through the kind of pressure that could have broken you, yet here you are still standing, still believing, still breathing grace. That's not survival, that's resurrection, power in motion. You're living proof that surrendered hearts don't drown, they rise with the tide. Think back to the moment you thought it was over. That's when heaven whispered, "This storm will not consume you, it will cleanse you." And that's exactly what it did. It washed away false strength and revealed true faith. It stripped away noise and left only truth. You may not have noticed, but the same storm that raged against you also cleared the atmosphere around you. It broke chains you couldn't see and removed weights you didn't know you carried. It reset your vision and redirected your path toward divine calm. Now that the skies are clearing, take a breath. Look at what remains, not the ruins, but the roots. What's left is pure, refined, unshakable. You've come through something only the chosen can survive. Heaven trusted you with a storm because it knew you wouldn't lose your song. And now, when new winds rise, you won't fear them. You'll recognize them. You'll know that the same God who allowed the storm also commanded its end. Every thunderclap now reminds you of a deeper truth. You are no longer afraid of what shakes, because your foundation is not made of dust. It's anchored in divinity. You passed the test the storm brought. You didn't just survive it, you learned to speak peace to it. And that, chosen one, is the mark of one who has truly surrendered, not one who escapes the storm, but one who learns to carry calm through it. Now every storm bows to your peace. Every wave remembers your strength. You no longer fear the wind, you command it. When the noise fades and the storm settles, there comes a silence, so thick it almost hums a quiet, where your spirit can finally hear what heaven has been trying to say all along. It isn't an ordinary silence. It is the kind of stillness that feels alive, full of unseen motion. This is where the voice in the quiet begins to speak. You might have expected God to speak through thunder, through some blazing sign or undeniable miracle, but instead, He whispers, because when your heart is still enough, even a whisper can feel like thunder inside you. Heaven doesn't need to shout to those who are truly listening. In the first book of Kings, chapter 19, verse 12, it is written, "After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper." No, that whisper changes everything. It doesn't always bring new instructions, Sometimes it simply brings awareness, the assurance that you were never alone in the silence. God doesn't always answer with explanations. Sometimes He answers with presence. You start to realize that the voice of God doesn't compete with noise. It waits for you to value stillness. Every moment you choose peace over panic, you tune your spirit to heaven's frequency. Every deep breath becomes an invitation for the divine to fill your lungs with purpose again. There was a time when quiet frightened you. You mistook silence for abandonment, stillness for emptiness. But now you know better. You've learned that the quiet is not void, it's visitation. Heaven does its finest work in the background. And the quiet is the evidence that work is underway. When God speaks in the stillness, He's not always telling you what to do next. Sometimes He's reminding you of who you are. His words are not commands shouted from a distance, but truths whispered close enough for your soul to feel their warmth. You hear it not through your ears, but through your spirit. You are safe now. You've been refined. You've become what I intended. And somehow, without fanfare, peace begins to bloom again inside you. The voice in the quiet restores identity. It untangles lies whispered by fear and reawakens the strength that struggle tried to bury. It reminds you that divine presence was never dependent on noise or movement. It was always within you, waiting for stillness to uncover it. This is where the most profound conversations between heaven and the human heart happen, not in shouts, not in lightning, but in breath. God's voice is often the same size as your heartbeat. That's why it can't be heard until the world quiets down enough for you to feel it. Sometimes, you don't even hear words. You feel direction. You sense peace moving like light through your thoughts. Heaven communicates not always with sentences, but with sensations, the kind that settles confusion, that replaces anxiety with knowing. You've spent years learning to recognize chaos, but now you are learning to recognize calm. You're beginning to understand that peace is also guidance. If the path you're walking fills your heart with divine quiet, you're probably walking in the right direction. The voice in the quiet doesn't argue, it confirms. It doesn't debate with fear, it outshines it. It tells you to rest when the world says, run. To stay when logic says, flee. To trust when results say otherwise. It's the language of those who walk by faith and not by sight. This quiet is not empty, it's inhabited. Angels breathe in it. Promises take shape in it. Heaven's architects work there, designing moments of destiny that will later appear like sudden miracles. But they are not sudden at all. They were being built in the silence. So now, when silence comes again, and it will, don't rush to fill it. Sit with it. Let it speak. Because this time, you will recognize the voice within it. You'll know that the same presence that spoke creation into being is now speaking gently into your soul. You'll feel no need to chase noise, no urge to prove your worth, no fear of delay. You'll know that divine quiet is never empty. It's the sacred space between promise and fulfillment, between surrender and manifestation. And from now on, whenever the world grows loud again, you'll remember what the silence taught you, that the voice of heaven never leaves. It simply waits for you to listen. And in that listening, clarity will rise like dawn. You will no longer chase signs. You will recognize presence. The quiet will no longer scare you. It will strengthen you, reminding you that heaven still speaks softly to hearts that finally stop running. There comes a point in every believer's journey when heaven begins to take the wheel, it's not an announcement, not a sudden miracle that shocks the sky. It's a quiet rearranging of everything around you. What once resisted begins to flow. What once closed begins to open. You realize you've shifted from striving to surrender, from controlling the journey to being carried by grace. You've done the work. You've prayed, fasted, waited, obeyed, and now something invisible starts moving on your behalf. You can't explain it, but doors begin to open without your knocking. Favor starts to follow you, not because you chased it, but because you aligned with it. Heaven has taken the wheel. It feels different now. You wake up with peace instead of panic, certainty instead of struggle. You're no longer trying to force outcomes. You're learning to trust direction. What once required constant effort now unfolds with divine ease. It's not luck, it's leadership from above. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Those ancient words are alive inside you right now. Every time you release your grip, heaven tightens its hold on your destiny. You begin to see that divine order was never chaotic. It was simply hidden beneath your need to control. This is the moment when heaven starts steering through territory you've never seen. You're not driving anymore. You're learning to ride in faith. The path may twist, but it will never lose its destination. You may not understand every turn, but you can trust the hands that guide. Sometimes, God delays direction because he's protecting the route. He doesn't reveal every step at once, not to confuse you, but to keep you from running ahead of grace. The road of destiny is not meant to be sprinted. It's meant to be walked hand in hand with the one who charted it. You're learning that control was never safety, it was only weight. Now, freedom feels like leaning back into divine flow, letting the wind of heaven push your sails again. The same God who guided Israel by a pillar of fire now guides you by inner peace. You no longer need signs on the road when the fire himself travels within you. Do you remember the times you begged for answers, for clarity, for confirmation? And now, strangely, you feel no need to demand them. That's how you know heaven's taken over, when questions lose urgency and trust becomes your language. Every shift happening right now is divine choreography. The opportunities, the encounters, the delays, all pieces of a grander route designed to take you to fulfillment without burnout. You were never meant to drive alone. You were meant to journey with the Creator beside you. So, as heaven takes the wheel, your posture changes. You stop forcing. You start flowing. You no longer panic when the scenery changes, because you know the destination has not. You have become a traveler in divine rhythm, letting grace dictate the pace. This is the sweet spot of faith, not in doing more, but in depending more. Heaven doesn't need your map, it just needs your yes. The road may surprise you, but it will never betray you. The one guiding it cannot fail. And now, right where you are, pause. Feel the shift inside you, that deep assurance that even without control, you are completely safe. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. That's heaven driving. If your spirit understands this moment, type "He's driving" in the comments. It's not a routine reply, it's a prophetic declaration that you've stopped fighting the wheel. When you write those two words, you're agreeing with heaven's new direction for your life. You're saying, I trust where you're taking me. Because the truth is, once heaven takes the wheel, the journey stops being about arrival. It becomes about alignment. Every mile becomes ministry. Every turn becomes testimony. Every destination becomes revelation. So let go of the need to steer. The hands that hold your future are steady. You're not lost, you're led. And what's ahead, chosen one, is a horizon painted by God Himself. And when you type those words, heaven doesn't just see letters, it sees surrender. It reads the posture of your heart and records your trust. That comment becomes more than a response. It becomes covenant language. A moment where your soul says, "Lead me, Lord." Not. It is a sacred act in a digital space, a whisper turned into a written prayer. In that instant, you're not just participating, you're aligning. Heaven receives it as permission to take full control of your direction and your destiny. There is a kind of strength that doesn't come from striving, a strength that lives in stillness. You've entered that realm now. You are beginning to understand that rest itself can be a weapon. It isn't the kind of rest that comes from quitting, but the kind that comes from trusting. Heaven calls it holy stillness, a spiritual posture where peace becomes armor. You've spent so much of your journey running, fixing, proving. But now, heaven teaches a different rhythm, one where quietness defeats chaos. You don't have to outfight darkness, your calm terrifies it. Every moment you rest in faith, you declare that God's power is enough. Scripture reminds us in the book of Exodus, chapter 33, verse 14, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." Those words are not a suggestion, they are a promise. God's rest is not sleep, it's stability. It's the kind of calm that stands firm, even while storms still swirl outside. When heaven gives rest, it's not an escape from battle, it's the victory posture of one who knows the war has already been won. Imagine a soldier laying down his sword, not because he's defeated, but because he knows the king has declared peace. That's what you are being invited into. Every time you choose peace over panic, you wield a weapon sharper than fear. Every sigh of surrender echoes like a victory shout in the spirit realm. Rest does not mean inaction, it means alignment. When your heart syncs with heaven's rhythm, even your stillness produces fruit. You begin to move differently, slower, but stronger, quieter, but deeper. You find that things start to fall into place without force. That's not coincidence, that's divine efficiency. The world tells you to grind harder, to never stop moving. But the kingdom teaches you something different. That stillness attracts what striving cannot. You become like a calm lake, everything drawn to your reflection because heaven's light rests upon it. And in this sacred calm, I want to speak to your heart, not as an instruction, but as an invitation. This space, these words, this message, they're all created to remind souls like yours that peace is still possible. It's not easy to hold this light in a world that feeds on noise. But every time you listen, you become part of the quiet revolution of heaven. If what you've found here has brought you comfort, if it has reminded you of your strength, then I invite you to keep this flame alive, not out of obligation, but out of love. When you like, share, or subscribe, you become part of the wind that carries the light farther. You help another wandering heart find rest. And if you ever feel moved to donate, Do it like planting a tree beside a river. You may never see every person it shades, but you'll know that somewhere, someone will find shelter because of your seed. Every act of generosity here is like adding another branch to that tree, one that grows in unseen soil, watered by grace. There is no pressure, only permission. You are free to give, to share, to simply receive whatever your spirit feels led to do. Every gesture, even the smallest one, becomes part of this ongoing stream of peace. Your like is a ripple, your share a wave, your donation a spring that keeps the water flowing. We are building a river of rest together, not through noise, but through nourishment. Every viewer, every heart that listens, becomes another stone in the riverbed, guiding this flow forward. When you lend your voice, your time, your presence, you strengthen the current. And if you've been searching for a way to give back, I know that giving isn't about transaction, it's about transformation. What you offer here doesn't just sustain words, it sustains healing. It allows hope to find its next listener. So, take a breath. If peace has reached you through this message, carry it forward, however you choose. Like, share, subscribe, or sow not because you must, but because your spirit desires to keep the light alive. Each act, however small, becomes part of heaven's echo through the earth. You are learning to rest not only in God's presence, but in His provision as you give or receive. You're living proof that peace is not passive, it's powerful. The more you rest in Him, the more heaven works for you. Let your stillness speak louder than your struggle. Let your peace preach louder than your pain. And as you sit quietly, feel heaven whisper again, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." And that promise was not only for Moses, it's for you. And through your peace, others will remember it too. When you look back now, the pattern starts to emerge. Threads you thought were scattered begin to align, weaving a story that could only have been written by heaven's hand. Every delay, every disappointment, every detour, they were not separate moments, but strokes of a divine design forming something greater than you imagined. For a long time, it felt random. You questioned why things had to unfold the way they did, why certain people left, why prayers seemed unanswered, why the path kept shifting. But now, in hindsight, you can see it. The hand you couldn't see was guiding you all along. You realize that God's guidance rarely announces itself. It moves subtly, like wind through tall grass, unseen, yet undeniable. You didn't know it then, but those sudden changes, those uncomfortable transitions, were heaven's redirections. You thought you were losing control, but you were actually being aligned. We find in the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 23, "The steps of a good person are ordered by the Lord, and He delights in their way." No, that verse feels truer now than ever. Even your missteps became part of His order. Heaven didn't need your perfection, only your permission. Each season, each shift, each stretch was part of the choreography of destiny. There were moments when you were sure you had made a wrong turn. The road grew dark, the silence louder than faith. Yet, even in that darkness, something guided you, a pull, a peace, a quiet knowing that refused to let you quit. That was Him. the invisible hand that carried you when you were too weary to walk. It's humbling to look back and realize how near He was. Even when you felt abandoned, every close call was a rescue. Every loss that shattered you was protection in disguise. The things that broke your heart were often the very things that saved your future. Heaven's hand doesn't just lead, it shields. You'll never know how many disasters were rerouted, how many traps were dismantled before you even saw them. The same God who orchestrates galaxies also rearranged moments in your life to ensure you arrived here, whole enough to continue. And here you stand now, not perfect, but preserved. That is the testimony of the guided soul. You made it, not because you knew every answer, but because you were held by a hand that never let go. Sometimes you didn't recognize His grip because it came through people, a timely word, a stranger's kindness, a door that closed when your heart wanted it open. Other times, it was simply the strength to take one more breath when everything in you screamed to stop. Guidance doesn't always feel like peace. Sometimes it feels like confusion that later becomes clarity. It feels like resistance that later reveals direction. Heaven often leads you through what looks like loss, only to deliver you into purpose. Every no you received was a redirection to a better yes. Every season of silence was a setup for a louder revelation. You thought you were wandering, but you were actually being walked through lessons only destiny could teach. Now, when you retrace your steps, you can almost see the fingerprints, divine touchpoints, marking every mile of your journey. There was never a moment when Heaven's hand wasn't there. Even when you strayed, that hand reached further. Even when you doubted, that hand steadied your steps. You understand now that God's hand doesn't just guide forward, it also gathers what was lost along the way. He redeems missed moments, restoring meaning to the fragments. The same hand that led you through storms now holds the mosaic of your life together, turning broken pieces into holy art. And as you look at that tapestry, gratitude begins to bloom. The very paths you once cursed now shine with divine purpose. What you thought were wasted years have become wisdom years. The detours weren't distractions, they were directions written in another language. One your soul is only now learning to read. You realize something sacred. Guidance isn't a straight line, it's a spiral that brings you deeper into understanding. Heaven doesn't just lead you somewhere, it leads you into something, into character, into faith, into wholeness. So, now, when the road bends again, you won't panic. You'll remember this pattern. You'll know that the unseen hand is steady, that the same grace that guided you through what was will guide you into what's next. And when you finally step back and see the full picture, you'll whisper what heaven already knew all along. Every step was sacred. And when heaven begins to confirm what it has promised, the air feels different. The ordinary starts to shimmer, and coincidences turn into clarity. You begin to notice the patterns, signs, words, alignments that speak louder than logic. They're not accidents, they are confirmations. Every signal you see now is heaven's way of saying, I haven't forgotten. It's unfolding. Oh, you prayed for proof. And heaven responded, not with explanation, but with evidence. A message arrives at the right moment. A door opens effortlessly. An old wound finally makes sense. These are not random happenings, they are divine fingerprints on the fabric of your reality. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 11. So shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. 1. That promise is alive within you right now. Every word heaven spoke over your life is working silently, steadily, supernaturally. You may not have seen the full manifestation yet, but the confirmation has begun. Heaven doesn't speak to tease you. It speaks to train you to trust. There is something sacred about divine confirmation. It's heaven's gentle nod to a weary heart that kept believing even in silence. It doesn't always arrive through angels or visions. Sometimes it comes through patterns that your spirit recognizes before your mind does. Maybe you've noticed certain numbers appearing again and again, or certain words echoing through different conversations. Maybe you've had moments where your heart feels a divine nudge, a peace that whispers, "This is it." Those moments aren't coincidence, they're coordinates. They point to alignment. When heaven confirms something, it speaks in a language your spirit already understands. That's why others may not see what you see or feel. What you feel, the message wasn't sent to their inbox. It was coded for you. You are walking in the beginning of manifestation. What once was abstract is taking shape. What was invisible is stepping into view. The long wait is now shifting into visible unfolding. And every step forward echoes with heaven's confirmation. This is what I promised. Oh, this is the moment when trust deepens. Because now you can trace what once was only faith. You're beginning to see how every detour, every delay, every disappointment was a divine arrangement, not an accident. The alignment is undeniable. Heaven is not just confirming promises, it's confirming identity. You are being reminded that you were never just waiting for a blessing. You are the blessing heaven has been preparing. The signs are not there to impress you, but to instruct you. They remind you that you're walking in divine rhythm, right where you were meant to be. Take a breath and reflect for a moment. How many coincidences have appeared since you surrendered? How many silent prayers have found answers in unexpected ways? These are not random. They are heaven's breadcrumbs leading you home to your purpose. There is power in recognition. When you acknowledge heaven's confirmations, you anchor them. Gratitude turns moments into monuments. Every thank you you whisper builds an altar of remembrance where faith can rest. And now, as this confirmation unfolds, you are invited to respond in the simplest way by marking this moment. Type 9,999 inches, the comments. Not as superstition, not as routine, but as acknowledgement. This number, in prophetic symbolism, represents completion into new creation, the closing of one cycle and the birthing of another. When you type 9,999, you're not just writing digits, you're declaring that what heaven promised is now manifesting. You're saying, "It's happening. I see it. I agree." That agreement is powerful because heaven honors recognition. The moment you acknowledge divine confirmation, the flow increases. This is more than affirmation, it's participation. Heaven doesn't want spectators, it wants witnesses. And you are one of them. You're not watching miracles, you're walking in them. Even now, something in your spirit recognizes the truth of these words. That warmth, that stirring in your chest, that's the sign. That's confirmation meeting, confirmation. Your eyes are opening to the patterns of heaven. You are learning to live attuned to signs, to recognize alignment not as luck, but as love. And once you start seeing that, you can never unsee it. Heaven is saying, it's here. The wait wasn't wasted. The promise didn't die. It matured. You are stepping into the reality of what once existed only in prayer. So, acknowledge it. Let heaven know you see it. Type 9,999 and declare, the word is working. Then watch, because what you affirm in faith today will become what you testify about tomorrow. It begins quietly, like the soft sound of rain after a long drought. You don't notice it at first, but something is shifting in the soil beneath your life. The seeds that were buried long ago, the ones you thought had died, are stirring. What was hidden under layers of disappointment is breaking open. The unseen harvest has begun. This is how heaven works. Growth happens underground before it ever appears in the light. You thought nothing was happening, but the roots were strengthening. Every tear you cried became water. Every prayer you whispered became fertilizer. Every moment you stayed faithful, even when it hurt, became sunlight breaking through the surface. Heaven never forgets a seed. Not one act of obedience. Not one moment of surrender. Not one gesture of love goes unnoticed. What you planted in faith, God now begins to multiply. And when heaven multiplies, it doesn't just return. What was given, it returns, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing, according to what is revealed in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Amen. You held on. You didn't quit. And now, heaven fulfills what it promised, not because you forced it, but because you were faithful. You're about to see the fruit of everything that once felt futile. Harvest is a holy mystery. It doesn't just grow in fields, it grows in people. You are the field heaven has been cultivating. Every hardship has been plowing, every delay has been tilling, and every moment of grace has been raining down upon you. What was breaking you was actually breaking through you. The harvest doesn't always arrive with loudness or spectacle. Sometimes it starts as peace. A door opens. A prayer finally answers. A heaviness you carried suddenly lifts. The fruit of surrender often grows in silence. But when it appears, it changes everything. You'll begin to see how heaven redeems time. The years you thought were wasted begin to produce abundance beyond logic. The relationships you lost are replaced by divine connections. The dreams that seemed forgotten awaken with new purpose. It's as if heaven whispers, "See, I told you I was working." Every harvest comes with a lesson. That patience was never punishment. Waiting was part of the process. Seeds can't grow without darkness. They need the hidden place. It was in that hiddenness that your roots learned to reach deep enough to hold the weight of what's coming. You are stronger now. The ground beneath you, once cracked by pain, has become fertile with wisdom. What was once barren now pulses with life. You will look around and see evidence everywhere, not only of restoration, but of overflow. And here's the truth. Heaven doesn't grow just one kind of fruit. The harvest isn't only in your material world, it's in your heart, your peace, your purpose. You'll see it in the calm that now replaces fear, in the clarity that now lives where confusion once dwelled. It will show up in the way you speak, softer, wiser, more certain. It will show up in how you love without fear of loss, without need for control. The harvest will not just change your circumstances, it will change your character. There was a reason God made you wait. And it's this: fast fruit spoils quickly, but what takes time to grow lasts. The fruit of endurance is sweeter because it carries heaven's flavor, the taste of purpose fulfilled through pain. Soon you'll realize that your harvest isn't just for you, it's for everyone connected to you. The seeds you sowed in prayer will bloom in other lives. Your testimony will become nourishment for the weary. Your story will become proof that heaven rewards faithfulness. When you see that, gratitude will overwhelm you. You'll fall to your knees, not because you're tired, but because you're in awe. The harvest will not make you proud, it will make you humble. You'll understand that it was never about your strength. It was always about God's grace growing something eternal through your temporary struggle. And when you finally gather what's been growing, you'll know this truth deep in your spirit. The harvest was never delayed, it was waiting for you to be ready. The unseen has now become seen. The buried has bloomed. What was promised is beginning to manifest. Heaven has kept its word. You'll hold the fruit of your faith and finally see why the waiting mattered. Every moment of silence was soil preparing your miracle. And as you taste the sweetness of fulfillment, you'll whisper, "It was worth it," because now you know nothing sown in faith ever dies. There comes a sacred point in every journey when identity transforms. You are no longer who you were when this began. The battle, the waiting, the surrender, all of it has reshaped you. You no longer move from survival, you move from surrender. You have crossed the line between striving and trust. Heaven has shifted your name in the spirit. You have become the surrendered warrior. This transformation wasn't sudden. It happened gradually in the countless moments when you chose peace over panic, obedience over comfort, silence over explanation. Each of those choices became a sword forged in unseen fire. You didn't even notice how your strength changed, but heaven did. You used to fight from fear, but now you fight from rest. You no longer swing wildly at every challenge. You discern which battles even deserve your presence. The difference between the survivor and the surrendered warrior is simple. Survivors fight to prove they can win. Warriors fight only when heaven commands. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 26, verse 52, "Put your sword back in its place, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword." That was not a rebuke of courage, but a revelation of calling. True strength is not found in endless battle, but in holy restraint. The surrendered warrior doesn't seek war, they stand in peace. And peace becomes their weapon. You've been trained by the fire of experience. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Every disappointment taught you endurance. Every delay taught you to trust heaven's timing more than your own. You are no longer reacting to life, you are responding to it through divine rhythm. The surrendered warrior moves differently. They don't rush into situations to fix them. They wait for heaven's signal. They understand that silence can be strategy. They've learned that sometimes the most powerful act of warfare is to stay still and let truth reveal itself. There's a deep beauty in this kind of transformation. It's not loud. It doesn't demand recognition. It's the quiet dignity of someone who has wrestled with God and emerged with peace instead of pride. You've been marked by that kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself anymore. You carry an authority that comes only through endurance. It's not the authority of control, but of confidence. Confidence in divine order, in heavenly timing, in the quiet assurance that what is meant for you will find you. The surrendered warrior doesn't chase, they attract. Their alignment with heaven draws all things into proper place. You once prayed for power. Heaven answered with pressure. You asked for wisdom. Heaven sent waiting. You longed for peace. Heaven brought storms to teach you stillness. That's how warriors are born, not by avoiding hardship, but by surviving transformation. There is something holy about the scars you now carry. They no longer represent pain, they represent proof. Proof that you've walked through what others feared, that you didn't lose your light in the fire, that you've learned the language of surrender. The surrendered warrior no longer begs for outcomes. They bless the process. They understand that every loss carried hidden instruction, every silence carried a sermon. You are now fluent in heaven's slower language. You no longer panic when things take time, because you've seen how divine timing always redeems delay. Your old self needed validation to feel valuable. The surrendered you knows that worth is eternal, not earned. You've become someone who no longer defines success by recognition, but by obedience. That is the victory. Heaven celebrates, not that you finished quickly, but that you never quit. And now, when the world looks at you, they may not see what changed, but heaven does. You radiate steadiness. You emanaci graci. You move like someone who knows who they are. The fear that once followed you has lost its grip. You walk through chaos without absorbing it. That's what it means to live surrendered. From survivor to surrendered warrior, that is the divine graduation. You've traded resistance for rhythm, and in doing so, you've aligned yourself with heaven's heartbeat. You no longer fight for peace, you fight from peace. Every step you take now carries quiet power. You don't announce what you're becoming, you simply become, and soon, others will recognize it, not by your words, but by your calm. The surrendered warrior doesn't need to declare victory, they embody it. You have not lost your fire, you've simply learned how to aim it. You burn steadily now, not wildly. You glow with purpose. Nord Banitz. The war you once feared has turned into worship, and that, chosen one, is the true mark of transformation. When your battles become blessings and your scars become songs, there comes a time when heaven no longer hides what it has been preparing. You begin to see it not through prophecy or promise, but through manifestation. What was whispered in secret now becomes visible in the open. The world that doubted you begins to witness the proof of divine takeover. This is heaven's public vindication. You were never meant to stay hidden forever. Hiddenness was protection, not punishment. But now the season of unveiling has arrived. The same God who trained you in private now prepares to reveal you in public, not for applause, but for purpose. Heaven is about to use your story as evidence that His word never fails. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 23, verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. That table isn't about revenge, it's about redemption. God doesn't expose you to humiliate others, He elevates you to glorify Himself. Every injustice, every misjudgment, every tear that fell unseen now becomes part of a feast of favor. You are not being exalted for pride, you are being displayed for purpose. Vindication is not loud, it's quiet power. It's when those who questioned your silence suddenly see results that speak louder than explanation. Heaven doesn't need you to defend your name. It is already doing that for you. Your peace has become your proof. In this new season, blessings will arrive like sunrise, gradual, certain, unstoppable. You won't have to force anything. What's yours will find you. The things that once fled your reach will now flow into your hands, carried by grace. But when heaven lifts you, remember this: elevation is not an escape from humility. The higher the tree grows, the deeper its roots must remain. Keep your heart grounded in gratitude. Every triumph should turn into thanksgiving. Every victory should echo as worship. This space, these words, this community is a garden of testimonies. Every listener, every reader is another flower in bloom, carrying a story of survival and surrender. And if these messages have become light to you, if they've spoken to your hidden battles, then you are already part of this garden's growth. And now, a gentle invitation, not demand. But désir. When you like, share, or subscribe, it is as though you're watering this garden. You are helping it bloom beyond your own field, letting the fragrance of hope reach someone else's wilderness. Every act of engagement becomes rainfall to a soul still waiting for its season of growth. And if this message touched your spirit, leave a few words below, not for attention, but as a leaf in this garden, proof that hope still breathes. Your comment becomes a whisper carried by the wind, telling another soul that light still lives here. And if you ever feel led to donate, let it be like planting a seed under a sunrise you might never see. You're not paying for words, you're sowing into light. What you give here grows in unseen soil, nurturing messages, touching lives you may never meet, and keeping the flow of encouragement alive for the next weary traveler. Your like becomes sunlight. Your share becomes wind. Your subscription becomes root. And your giving becomes rain. Each one completes the ecosystem of grace that allows this garden to flourish. Nothing forced, nothing demanded, only love taking form through small, sacred gestures. And even if all you do is pause, breathe, and let these words settle, that too is enough. You are part of this harvest simply by being here, by listening, by opening your heart to what heaven is saying. So, if this message resonates with your spirit, take a moment, water the garden however you feel led. Like it, share it, comment, subscribe, or give not out of duty, but out of delight. Let every action become a quiet prayer that says, "May this light travel farther." Heaven's public vindication isn't about spotlight, it's about stewardship. You are not being shown off, you are being sent out. The grace that elevated you will now flow through you. The world will see not your effort, but His excellence. And as you walk into this unveiling, may every blessing remind you that vindication was never about victory over others. It was about visible proof of invisible faith. Heaven has done what it promised. You are the evidence that trust was never in vain. You'll look back and realize this garden grew not from applause, but from obedience watered by faith, rooted in patience, and blooming through surrender. And every flower that blossoms here will carry your fingerprint of faith, whispering to the world, "This is what grace can grow." No, there is a rhythm that begins to return when heaven restores what was lost. It is not sudden or loud, but steady like the sound of a heart finding its natural beat again after a long silence. Everything that once felt disconnected starts aligning. The fragments of your life, scattered through seasons of trial and surrender, begin to fit together in divine symmetry. This is the kingdom flow being restored. When heaven restores, it doesn't simply replace what was broken, it reorders it. The pieces do not go back where they used to be, they settle where they were always meant to belong. That is the beauty of divine alignment. You do not get the old life back, you receive a life made whole. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 3. Then the Lord your God will restore your fortunes, and have compassion on you, and gather you again from all the nations where he scattered you. That promise is not just about wealth or opportunity, it's about wholeness. Restoration is heaven's way of reuniting every part of your story under one truth. Nothing was wasted. Every detour, every heartbreak, every lesson has purpose in the greater pattern. Now, look closely. What once felt out of tune begins to harmonize. The relationships that matter start to find balance again. Your emotions, once unruly, begin to rest. Your thoughts, once tangled, start to untie themselves in peace. This is what it feels like when the kingdom rhythm takes over, not the rhythm of rushing, but of divine pacing. When heaven restores flow, everything begins to breathe again. You no longer have to force progress, you move naturally within grace. The same God who ordered the stars now orders your steps. What seemed random before now feels intentional. What once drained you now fuels you. You start to see that the kingdom flow isn't just about movement, it's about direction. You're not being swept aimlessly, you're being carried purposefully. The current that moves through you now is the same one that flows through creation itself. The pulse of heaven's order returning to your life. And there's peace in that flow, not because everything is perfect, but because you've learned to stay in sync. You no longer resist what God is doing. You cooperate. You don't fight the current, you follow it. That's when miracles begin to multiply quietly around you, not through effort, but through alignment. You start noticing how the right opportunities find you at the right time. Conversations become divine connections. Even the smallest coincidences feel sacred. You realize that life doesn't need to be pushed, it needs to be partnered with. The kingdom flow is not earned, it's embraced. This restoration doesn't erase the past, it redeems it. The old wounds no longer sting, they shine. They become testimonies that release healing to others. The memories that once hurt now hold wisdom. You begin to understand that restoration is not about getting back what you lost, but becoming what you were always meant to be. Peace becomes your new atmosphere. You wake up lighter, not because life is easier, but because your spirit has stopped fighting divine order. You've learned that grace is not resistance, it's rhythm. It's the art of letting heaven lead while you move in harmony. As the kingdom flow returns, your relationships start to mirror it. Conversations feel clearer, love feels freer, and forgiveness comes easier. You begin to see others through heaven's lens, not as threats or tests, but as parts of the same divine melody. The kingdom is not about control, it's about connection. And in that connection, abundance quietly appears. You realize that provision has always been about alignment. When you flow with heaven, resources recognize your name. You no longer chase what you need, it finds you through purpose. This flow also brings discernment. Not everything that moves fast is progress, and not every opportunity is an open door. You've learned to feel when something moves with heaven's wind And when it resists it, you no longer crave more, you crave flow. It's a gentle restoration, one that fills rather than forces. The noise inside fades. The weight lifts. The current steadies. You are being carried by something stronger, wiser, and infinitely kinder than you imagined. And as you move with it, you realize that this is what heaven always intended. Not a life of chaos or constant striving, but a life of divine rhythm where peace and power walk hand in hand. Everything aligns your heart, your purpose, your pace. The kingdom flow has returned, and with it comes the quiet confidence of one who finally knows you were never lost, only being led back into order. There is a silence that follows fulfillment, not the silence of emptiness, but of completion. You've come to that sacred threshold now. Heaven has finished what it began. The same voice that once called you into motion now invites you into stillness again. Not as a struggle, but as a crown. You are standing in the peace of promises kept. Everything feels different. Softer, slower, lighter. The striving that once consumed you has faded. You no longer wake up wondering what must be fixed or fought. Instead, you wake up with quiet gratitude, not for what you've achieved, but for what you've become. You are no longer a seeker. You are a keeper of divine peace. The crown placed upon you is not made of gold or jewels. It's woven from trust, endurance, and surrender. It represents the journey of a soul that refused to let darkness win. Every test you endured, every night you survived, every battle you stopped fighting on your own, all of it has led to this moment of coronation in stillness. As the apostle wrote in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." Oh, you wear that promise now. The crown of life is not a future reward, it is a present state of being. It is peace that cannot be taken, faith that cannot be shaken, and joy that doesn't depend on circumstance. You've reached a place where the noise of the world no longer dictates your inner weather. You've learned that stillness is not inactivity, it's authority. True kings and queens don't rush, they reign. And to reign with heaven means to move in serenity, to lead through calm, to speak with clarity born of silence. This is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your reign. Crowning moments in heaven rarely look like human victory. They don't come with crowds or applause. They come quietly, in rooms where no one else is watching. When God himself bends low to place peace on your head, that's where you are now, in the throne room of stillness, crowned by grace itself. All the lessons you've lived through have led to this revelation, that victory is not in the noise of triumph, but in the whisper of trust. The crown is proof that surrender was not weakness, it was wisdom. Heaven always intended to rule through you, not just for you. This peace you carry now is not fragile, it's fortified. It doesn't fade when storms rise, it deepens. The calm you wear is not avoidance, it's awareness. You've seen how quickly human strength ends, and how endlessly divine strength begins. That knowing has become your armor, your mantle, your quiet power. From this place, you no longer need to prove anything. You walk differently now, not faster, but freer. Your words carry weight, not because they are loud, but because they come from a heart that has seen heaven's hand firsthand. People will notice it, though you won't need to say a word. Your peace will preach louder than any sermon. This is the secret of the chosen ones. Their victory looks like rest. Their crowns are invisible to the world, but radiant in the spirit. They rule not with force, but with faith. Not through control, but through communion. Every breath becomes an act of worship, every moment a reflection of grace. And as you stand in this stillness, you finally understand what heaven was doing all along. The fight, the fire, the silence, the surrender, all of it was preparation for peace. You were never meant to merely survive, you were meant to reign in rest. The journey is not over, but it has transformed. You now walk not as the weary, but as the wise. Your stillness is your scepter, your peace, your power, your trust, your throne. You are crowned in stillness, robed in grace, enthroned in serenity. Heaven smiles, and the universe exhales. The story has not ended, it has ascended. You are crowned, complete, and at last, at peace. Now the air around you hums with quiet divinity. Every breath feels like worship. Every heartbeat, a hymn of gratitude to the God who carried you here. You stand unafraid of tomorrow. Because peace has replaced striving, you no longer chase destiny, you walk inside it, wrapped in heaven's steady rhythm. And as eternity leans close, heaven whispers once more, rest. My chosen one, you've done enough. Now, let me take over forever. If these words have found you, if they stirred something quiet and sacred inside your heart, then perhaps this was never just a message. It was a meeting, somewhere between silence and sound. Your soul recognized its own reflection in these lines. That recognition is holy. It means the light still lives in you. Now, as this story closes, the journey continues. Every listener, every reader, becomes part of a living current, a stream of hope flowing through unseen places. When you like, share, or subscribe, it's as if you're releasing another ripple into that stream. You help the message travel to someone who is still searching for the peace you've found. If you feel moved to comment, leave behind a word, a phrase, even a single symbol. Think of it as a small lantern set afloat on still waterproof, that this light touched another heart tonight. Your words become beacons for others walking through the same darkness you once knew. And if your spirit ever whispers to donate, let it be like adding wood to a quiet fire, not because it's fading, but because you want the warmth to reach farther. Every gift, every gesture, no matter how small, becomes part of this shared light that keeps glowing long after the words end. Nothing here is asked of you. Everything is invited. You are free to stay, to return, to rest. This is your space of stillness, your reminder that heaven has not forgotten your name. So, breathe deeply, let gratitude settle, and if your heart agrees, water this garden once more with a share, a comment, a seed. Ainsi l'en prier. The light continues, because you carry it now.